Joining me now on this conversation is Steve Swart, the Chief Whip of the ACDP. Steve, firstly, how do we find the balance of public sector investment as well as private sector investment in the infrastructure development plan?
Well, it's a great concern for the ACDP that the private sector is still not investing sufficiently in private fixed capital for economic development that we really need for job creation. The private sector is sitting on 1.8 trillion rand in cash reserves. And why are they not investing? Because of the policy uncertainty and regulatory uncertainty. And so yes, whilst President Ramaphosa has indicated there's going to be massive investment, we have to deal with policy uncertainty. You've got to deal with that first so that the private sector can invest more.
Where is the stumbling block in terms of the policy uncertainty in the eyes of the ACDP?
Well, I think there's a number of issues. Firstly, we see our foreign policy, where we have challenges with Western trade partners, we have challenges with the US, tariffs have been imposed, so that is one of the issues that needs to be addressed. There's a fiasco with foreign policy. Then, of course, we need to see the review of our BEE policies. That is taking place, thankfully. But that is only empowering a small group, and many, many people are not being empowered by that. So that needs to be reviewed. In our mining sector, it is an absolute disgrace that we haven't benefited more from the commodities boom. That due to uncertainty with policy that has resulted in our mines not investing with capital investment from the private sector. Far more can be done, and we should have a massive tax windfall. We're expecting a small tax windfall in that regard, but it should be far more.
The President, in his State of the Nation address, actually denounced the calls for the review of the BEE, saying that it is dealing with the issues of the past injustices. Your view?
We think it's been abused, largely. We do believe in redress for what happened in the past, such as restitution of land with compensation as set out in the Restitution of Land Act. There was a place for that. We believe a sunset clause should be introduced and that there should be far more broader development that encourages and does not only benefit a few politically connected people that become multi-billionaires. And that is what we have seen. And that is why we fully support a review of the BEE system. We also believe when it comes to the increasing of taxation that it is not something that we would support. VAT last year was an absolute debacle to even increase that. We've got many, many poor people. We've got households that are struggling. And thankfully, we see SARS is now collecting more funds. We've got to collect more funds, and then we need to ensure that personal taxes are not increased, VAT taxes are not increased. But then again, we do support the looking at taxing online gambling. That is devastating our communities that are trying to put some money in to try to gain something there. That must be taxed more.
Indirect taxes like the fuel levy and also addressing the issue of the high cost of living. How do you think you should navigate that space?
It's a pity that it's more than likely we will see an increase in those indirect taxes, such as because it's easy to collect. But it does impact on every level. It impacts your fuel, your transport, your food prices. So whilst we understand that it will probably introduce, that's not something that we would like. We would rather like to see cut unnecessary expenditure, cut wasteful expenditure, cut that procurement expenditure that is so corrupt. Collect those tens of billions of rands that have been stolen. It's been highlighted in the Zondo Commission. We can collect those tens of billions of rands and put those people behind bars. That is what we need to do. And then we can balance our budget. We can also look at the ghost workers, those people that don't even exist. And of course, the early retirement program is to be welcomed as long as it doesn't impact frontline services, our policemen, our educators, our health services. We cannot impact them. They're really struggling. So it's a fine balance that will need to be achieved. But we do believe that there's hope for the nation and that the ship of state finances is starting to move in the right direction. And we're not part of the GNU, but we genuinely are starting to see. But what we do need, we need a fiscal anchor for when there are storms. And that could be the primary surplus budget, which can act as an anchor when things go wrong and there's a shock when you have geopolitical forces acting. But we see our gold prices up, we see our silver prices up, we see the JSE is increasing, the rand is quite strong, so there's a lot of good news. But taxpayers are demanding value for every rand of tax that they spend. And everyone pays tax. Indirect taxes, we would hope that there'll be some fiscal relief for bracket creep for salary earners, at least that. But this budget, from our perspective, needs good stewardship of state resources. It needs us as servant leaders to serve the people of South Africa and to ensure that the services are improved. How can there be no water? That is a disgrace in Johannesburg and other areas. We've got to improve our education. We have to improve our health services. And as you know, myself, as one of the longest serving member of the Justice Portfolio Committee, our people do not feel safe in their homes, public places, schools, businesses. We've got to maintain law and order. And that is why we welcome the Madlanga Commission, the ad hoc committee. We've got to exclude the rot in our law enforcement services. We've got to make sure that law and order is maintained in society. So there's hope for our nation. There's definitely hope. And we look forward to seeing how that is translated into today's budget.
All right, thanks so much. Steve Swart, the Chief Whip of the ACDP. A lot of talking points, and we will be continuing with political expectations.